Abdool Karim, our distinguished Honorary Doctorate. It's really wonderful having you here with us. Warm word of welcome to you, your family, your loved ones, your friends. I'm sure some more people might arrive a little bit later, and we look forward to welcoming them as well. Colleagues from the university, Executive Management Committee members, council members, colleagues from the Executive Leadership Group, colleagues from the faculty, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As I've alluded to, it's really a special privilege to welcome you all to the celebration dinner here that we are celebrating here tonight. And myself and Prof Quarraisha spoke earlier today, and we said we're not going to make this very formal because it's a joyous occasion. We want people to talk and celebrate and share this wonderful opportunity with you. But I think it will not be appropriate if I don't say a few words in my opening statements regarding what we are celebrating here tonight. And I want to say, Prof Karim, is that as you've heard tonight, that our university is in existence for 12 years, established 2005. And this is the first honorary doctorate that the Faculty of Health Sciences is awarding. And I think we need to put our hands together because it just highlights the significant value of what we are celebrating here tonight. And I'm very sincere when I say that we've made this award. It's to an exceptional scholar, incredible researcher, wonderful activist around a range of other issues. I guess the one issue that also came through very strongly in the talk of our Vice-Chancellor functionary tonight is the role that you've played as a woman. I was so taken aback by your family being here, the joy on their faces when I met them, when I went down into the audience, the joy they celebrated. But as you've alluded and as Prof Quarraisha has alluded, the wonderful achievements of what women can achieve in this wonderful nation of ours when we really take it forward. So you really are a leading light in a number of areas. But personally, I must say the point that stood out for me tonight was the warmth of your family and how they really just enjoyed this moment together with you. And it was so wonderful for me to see that. But I think the impact that you're doing, not just in our country, continentally, but internationally. And the point that I highlighted to our faculty board meeting, the point that you're contributing to broader society, the emphasis of your talk tonight as well, the whole impact of this epidemic around young women in society. And although I refer to young women, sometimes it's children in many occasions, and the whole aspect and how we're going to manage it. So when I first proposed this honorary doctorate to our faculty, I was struck by a number of issues. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look at our vision statement of the university. But if you do have an opportunity, do visit it. But I just want to allude to a few issues around it. So we've got this wonderful vision statement, value statement, apologies, that highlights 4 key issues: imagination, conversation, regeneration, and Ubuntu. And some of the words that we use to allude to these some aspects, if I look at imagination, it's thinking independently, ambition and drive, shaping the future. Conversation, leading, consulting, mutual respect. Regeneration, introspection for renewal, making positive change. And the whole issue around Ubuntu, where we make participating and help communities, uplift our communities. And when I looked at your CV and I presented the case to our faculty board, you know, it was like a mirror image of what you're doing. This dream that you are having, even if we can't eliminate HIV infections totally, but how do we reduce it? How do we create this awareness around a broader range of communities, amongst young females? And I listened to the passion when you gave your talk tonight. And I can just say that on behalf of me, the faculty members, the university leadership, we are so proud to have you as our Faculty of Health Sciences first recipient of an honorary doctorate. It's really an extreme pleasure, wonderful opportunity for somebody that really fulfills what this university stands for, as I've highlighted into our value statements, and lives it every day. Thank you very much for agreeing to accept this offer from us. It's a wonderful opportunity to have you with us. Enjoy the evening with us. It's wonderful having you all with us this evening. Thank you very much.
I say that I'm not going to be formal because I can't be formal for 2 reasons. One is I know Quarraisha and her husband, who I call Slim, and I'm not going to call him anything else but Slim this evening, I've known them from the 80s. So it goes back a long, long time of association when we were all when I was in Durban, and at that time at the University of Durban Westcliff. For many of you of the younger generation, you probably don't even know what UDW stands for. But for those of us of the older generation, it was a home of protest, resistance, a determination that we would overcome. We just never thought that it might be in our lifetime. Well, I certainly didn't think it was in our lifetime. And I remember writing an article in the 70s thinking that change would happen way after I had departed. And I'm pleased to say that words were not that prophetic. But I've known Quarraisha and Slim for a long, long time. But let me say that I first knew Slim before I got to know Quarraisha. And we were these young Turks who were kind of starting our so-called research career and kind of thinking that we needed to do something around health, but that we also were in a historically disadvantaged university that didn't have a lot of money, and that we needed to find some way of working together on finding and working on a grant proposal to get funding. And so we did. We worked on the Wellcome Trust grant, and we received in it was about 1990s. When was the Wellcome Trust? About around that time, we got a grant of £5 million, which I mean in those days was a hell of a lot of money to establish the first center of reproductive health on the continent. And I'm proud to say that, you know, I was one of those team members, a 3-person team member from UDW who worked with Slim in developing that proposal. And I remember, you know, Slim was just an amazing intellectual and scientist, even in those days. What I didn't know when I first met him was that he had a partner who was even more brilliant and successful. And that one day she was going to be a front runner of women scientists, not only in South Africa but on the continent. And for me, this has always epitomized the power couple, the Quarraisha and Slim Karim. And both of them have proved themselves independently and together as major scientists in their area. But Quarraisha for me has always been the kind of woman that I hope that younger women will always emulate. I mean, in our generation, we were always first in our generation because we didn't have that many women role models in our communities, but in the country as a whole. And we were always trying to break the glass barriers in one way or the other. But I think that for me, Quarraisha has always been a role model in a kind of different way. She was married young, but she managed to retain her independence and her career. And that for me was something that I've always respected. But she was also, more than that, able to raise a family. And often we hear about the difficulties of trying to maintain a career and balancing that between a woman's career, having children, and obviously looking after the husband. Quarraisha has been someone in my immediate environment who's been able to juggle all of those three roles in a remarkably successful manner. But she's also able to not forget the Indianness in her and the link to her family and friends. And that, you know, is testimony to see family here today. Tells me a lot about Quarraisha and the person that she has been and will always be. So Quarraisha, I just want to say, I'm not going to talk about UJ. I can give you chapter and verse about vision and mission, but that's not what I'm going to do this evening. But I think that it would be remiss of me to not endorse what Andre in his welcoming remarks had to say, is that we don't just give out honorary doctorates. We are very, very reflective and thoughtful before we decide on an honorary doctorate. And so, you know, when your nomination came up, there was no hesitation whatsoever that you were a worthy candidate of an honorary doctorate at the University of Johannesburg. And we want to say to you that yes, we're a very young university. We don't have the legacy of a UCT or of Pretoria or of Wits, but watch the space. We are a mover and a shaker par excellence. And for those of you who don't know, we've just overtaken the University of Stellenbosch in terms of research output. And we've done that without a medical school. So we are looking to establish a medical school, and I hope that the day that we do, and we open the doors to a medical school, that both you, Quarraisha, and Slim will be friends of our medical school. But I just want to say congratulations, and we are indeedly honored to have you as our honorary doctorate. You are now also a proud alumnus of the University of Johannesburg, which, by the way, from everyone that I speak to, is seen to be the university of the new South Africa, the university that reflects what South Africa post-1994 was all about. And in all of that, we do represent that in terms of the people, in terms of our vision, in terms of our students. We really are an amazing university. And yes, I know I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor, I've got to say these kinds of things, but that's not it. I truly believe in it, and I think, you know, we have wonderful, wonderful opportunity in the next 5, 10, 15 years to demonstrate what universities on the continent are capable of, and the kind of people that we can produce, and the kind of caliber of graduates and professionals that we have on our doorstep. So Quarraisha, once again, we are really proud of you. We're really proud of your association now with UJ, and we hope that wherever you travel, you will always remember us at UJ. Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening.
I want to thank both Andre and Anjana for very warm, generous, and words of welcome and thanks. And I don't have other words to use to describe my immense gratitude for being awarded this honorary doctorate. And it is both a privilege and an honor, but also very humbling, because I think when you do work and as a scientist, you don't expect recognition. So when recognition comes, and when recognition comes particularly from local institutions, to me it always carries a very high value. So I started off at UDW because way back in 1977, when I had finished high school, there weren't many choices in terms of if you were Indian, which university you went to. And I grew up in Tongaat, which is about 40 kilometers north of Durban. And it's a very small town. It has always had about 20 to 30,000 people there, and you knew everybody. And the schools that we had were actually set up as state-aided schools. And I don't know how many of you understand what a state-aided school is. It means that the community set up these schools with a little bit of support from government. But what was important in our community, in the house, and it was always not your family, you were in and out of everybody. So you were part of a very extended family in this community, and everybody looked out for each other. And we had teachers who I think some months didn't get paid, but what was really impressive about the teachers that we had was they were really dedicated and committed. And they were committed to doing the best. And I think given another life and another opportunity, they would have been really great people. But I feel that, and my entire family, well, most of my family who's here, really benefited from going to these schools, from being in a supportive environment, and where it was inculcated in us that knowledge is really important, and going and pursuing professional degrees, higher degrees. Now I remember I think my earliest memory goes to about when I was 2, and I was always curious. And I didn't know that there was something like a scientist, but I knew I wanted to discover everything that there was there to be discovered. And I discovered electricity. And it was like a great thing, putting my finger into the socket and having the electric current go through. And you know, when I find something really exciting and interesting, I want to share it with the rest of the people around me. And the first person who was closest to me was my sister Meroon. And I said, come, I'm going to show you something really exciting. And she put her finger in and didn't pull it out quickly enough, didn't have the fun sensation, and I got into big trouble. So several years later, we used to go to school, and then we had to cross these railway lines to go for religious instructions several kilometers away. And we weren't supposed to do a shortcut, which is jump over the railway lines. And I couldn't understand why, because there's like such a thrill of, you know, the train is approaching and can you jump over fast enough? And they had these wooden slats there, and they were in the process of changing it. So right alongside were these concrete slabs, and I decided to take one of my brothers with me. And of course, in their panic, they tripped and fell and needed a couple of stitches in the forehead. And then we had this town hall, and in the front of this town hall was a huge pond that had beautiful koi fish. And if you just tipped over like this, you could see them swimming so nicely there. And I took another sibling with me to go and enjoy this, and he fell into it. And I had to drag him out, covered in water lilies and all kinds of weeds and so on. So I think it must have been about 3 and a bit, and my uncle, who was the principal, decided he'll rescue my parents and take me to school. So I went to school quite early and really enjoyed. So I was listening to the dean of the School of Engineering and him finishing school at 15 or so. Like I finished school about the same time. So I was wondering if you had the same thing. But anyway, when I was finishing high school, my parents were very keen that I go to medical school, and I said, no, I want to be a scientist. And the question my dad asked me was, does it pay you a good salary? And I said, well, I don't know, and I'm not sure that I really care about what is a good salary. I'm going to be having fun doing this. And being at UDW, I learned about immunology, and you know, it's interesting, my early forays in immunology was, one, the fascination of the body in terms of defending us and protecting us. And then I learned that every now and again there's some glitch and it turns on itself and you have autoimmune diseases. And I was more fascinated with that. It was years later that I started to look at HIV and started to look at the other end of the spectrum. But I have to say that I was kind of rambling around, just doing a lot of things that I enjoy doing until I met my husband. He's a very focused person. So not like me, you know, go to UDW, who's the only 2 immunologists in the country? Oh, the one is in Pretoria, one is in Joburg, so I come and I joined. Reuben Sher, just at the time the first cases of AIDS were described. And then I meet Slim, we get married. A week later, we go to Columbia University and we're doing our masters in epidemiology. He's like very, very focused. I think it was somebody was telling me that they were in a meeting, the first meeting they had with him. He says, okay, this is what we're going to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I think one of the things about being married to Slim is that his focus is his strength, but also he's open to other ideas. And the fact that we work together means that we can address a common problem with complementary thought processes that gives us a lot of synergy and strength. Now, we have 3 children, and you can ask the children about this, but we are incorrigible. We will take them to Disneyland on holiday, and then we'll be talking about how the efficiency of the queuing system can be brought into our clinics. And then we'd be talking, you know, we'd have guests, and all we talk about is sex and condoms and so on. So I think the kids, when we get invited to the schools, when they were in primary school, they'd say, whatever you do, please don't talk about sex. Talk about everything else. This is embarrassing. Whatever. But I think, you know, I have 8 siblings, and I have 3 children, and I have extended family, and I know I can always count on family. And I think Andre was talking about how juggling careers and family is a huge challenge. And I hope that we see repeatedly that women in the workplace is not even up for discussion and negotiation. And what we got to do better about is how do we give people choice? And how do we give people choice to enable them to make whatever contributions they want to make to society and not have to give it up? So, you know, it's become like you either have a career or you have a family. And I know for those of us who are both, it seems like we're constantly chasing our tails, and we constantly feel like we're inadequate, we're not doing anything good enough. And I think women set themselves a much higher bar. And I think when you work and you have family, you don't take enough time off for yourself. And I hope that as more and more women come into the workplace, we demonstrate how important they are in the workplace, but also that it is about respecting women's contributions in society in whatever shape and form it takes, but also enabling them to make the decisions and choices they make. And I think my generation has spent a lot of time trying to find the right balance, and we hope that the next generation, and here I'm looking at my niece and my daughters, that they're able to take this higher, that in the role modeling that we've done, and I don't just mean me, there's a lot of people in this room who have done the same, that we can show what is possible when you allow equal development of all human beings and enable all human beings to contribute to societal transformation and making the world a better place. I do want to say a few things about the UJ Honorary Doctorate. So firstly, you know, it came as a huge surprise. And I'm not going to say the next 2 things because I have an Honorary Doctorate from UJ. But in August last year, around Women's Month, Dr. Bawa invited me to do a talk. And Ridwana, my niece, was at that talk. And I came in a bit early and used the opportunity to visit the library. I think that's the Banting Road campus. And I was so impressed with what I saw. This was the most amazing library, and it reminded me what libraries are about and it reminded me what university is about. So when I look at your masthead and I see reimagine, it sort of like really stuck with me that it wasn't just words on a masthead, it wasn't just rhetoric, that it really was what people believed in this institution. And as I've since then met with different faculty members, over and over again, what I see is people living that masthead and really doing things differently, but doing things differently in a very positive way and setting new standards and bars. So Slim was the acting Vice Chancellor for Research at UKZN, which includes the libraries. And I said, when I got home, you've got to send your librarians to UJ to learn how to do this. And it was the way that the whole place was structured that was so responsive to group learning. It was so responsive to students who had challenges in getting to an 8 o'clock class, or students who need to do an all-nighter, or places and hubs that facilitated postgraduate studies. And at the same time, there was this like really cool place in the entrance. You all know it, but maybe this is more for my family's benefit, like a lounge with trashy magazines and, you know, all the books there that, you know, knowledge takes many shapes and forms, and it's how do you encourage and inculcate that. My second part is that I have received many awards, and I count that as a blessing, because I do what I do because I want to do it, not for the awards. So when the awards come, I feel it's like, wow, special bonus. And I've worked with Bernice and Tuli, and I must say, they set new standards in terms of organizing events. And, you know, we always look up to the Oscars and Tony Awards and all these red carpet events with celebrities and so on. I felt like a real princess, really pampered. And I can say I speak on behalf of my family in terms of the way they got their invitations, the attentiveness, the attention to detail in terms of accommodating requests. We've had, even this morning, one of our colleagues from Washington, Dr. Kutiri, happened to be here, read it in the papers and said, I have to be at this graduation. And Tuli and Bernice were really there. And it's also the faculty associated with it. I think, I don't want to repeat everything Andre said. You know, the fact that this is the first honorary doctorate in the health faculty, health sciences faculty, the process that was used. I already feel very special, very humbled by this recognition, and really want to thank all of you for supporting this special award to be made. But I also want to really do a shout out for all of the staff for the way they carry through that masthead and the attention to detail. I think, you know, sometimes, and I don't want to name any university that's getting in big trouble, is that there's a bit of complacency and you don't feel like this is special. And so I thought, you know, just getting to the graduation, the whole graduation ceremony, the oratory was quite something. And then we have this extra bonus of having this very special dinner in a very special venue. We've had just starters and it was amazing. And I'm sure from the descriptions of the main and desserts, it's even more to come. I still don't see the main course. But maybe to pick up from, so you see what happens when you're old, when you get old. You know, growing up in the in the 70s and the 80s, you know, just after the Soweto riots, and being anti-apartheid activists, and with all the zeal, Slim and I saw this play on Saturday called Oslo, and I was listening to one of these PLO representatives that was the actor there. And I listened to him and I kind of thought of you like that, you know, this is how he sounded, like so romantic, so idealistic. But the point that I want to make is that we ended up spending a lot of time in communities, and we saw what violence and brutality against people involved. And we also saw how when people are denied their rights to actually have a constitution that's as fantastic as ours is, doesn't immediately translate to people recognizing their rights. So in doing research, we wanted to ensure that the research that we did not in any way disenfranchise or discriminate against people further. So every time I do something, there's always a piece there around the ethics and the way we engage with community and the need to actually ensure when people participate in our research that it's fully informed, it's voluntary, and people understand that. So a lot of what we've been able to do, never mind the failures that we've had, I think one of the offshoots of that engagement is getting people to own the science and be part of the science and not just be volunteers who took part in a study. So, you know, we have these discussions with the community before we start our research, during the research, at the end of the research. So at any given time, we know, and the participants know exactly what is going on. And I remember as we were preparing to do the results of the Quarraisha 004 trial, another microbicide trial had just ended. And there were these newspaper articles about how people in Africa were being used as guinea pigs for research. And the participants got really angry about it. And one participant in particular, we call her Gabby, that's not her real name, said, I want to have an opportunity to explain why I take part in research. And so if you visit the Quarraisha website, www.quarraisha.org, there's a video link there to Gabby's gift. And you'll find it very interesting to read it, if you, particularly if you're doing research with people, about what this participant thought about HIV, about the research and how research was contributing to change and what her role was in that. So the first time there was some coverage of Gabby's gift, our ethics committee hauled us over the coals and said, how dare we, without their permission, do this? And Gabby said, well, I want to come to this ethics committee meeting and I want to speak for myself. So I think oftentimes as scientists, as we try to address disparities in society, we're actually voices for the voiceless. And when the voiceless can stand up and speak for themselves and do that, to me, that's the biggest success. So even though the mains are not here, I think I'm going to stop here. So I want to thank you again, and real honor and privilege. And I hope that as both an alumni now of University of Johannesburg and having an honorary doctorate, that I remain a good ambassador for the University of Johannesburg. And as I said to Elaine and a few others from the nursing school, South Africa is a very small country and we don't have the luxury of competing against each other. And so if there's, and I speak now on behalf of Slim and myself, if there's anything we can do to facilitate and support research at UJ, please feel free to call on us. Now you can call on me officially and unofficially. Thank you very much again, and thank you.